Hi, since it's unusual for me to abdicate the introductory lecture responsibilities and turn them over to someone else, I thought I'd take a couple minutes to show you why I'm so intrigued by this Henry Louis Gates piece. First of all, one of the interesting things about it is he's delivering this as part of an honorary lecture in a series that's supposed to be sort of inspired by Jefferson. So one of the most interesting things about this piece is the background it gives us on Jefferson's reaction to Phillis Wheatley. The most famous Jefferson line about Wheatley are these lines from Notes on the State of Virginia, where, and in general in this work, Jefferson reveals a deep ambivalence about slavery. He believes that it's a curse. He believes that it must be gradually removed. And yet, of course, he's a slave owner who depends on slaves for the functioning of his plantation. And he operates from ideas of racial hierarchy and superiority that, from our current perspective, would seem flagrantly racist. And we see that play out in Wheatley, who, because of what Jefferson sees as the limited imaginative power of African Americans, can't possibly write truly beautiful and innovative poetry, that she's always ultimately going to be religiously imitative and derivative of white poets who have superior intellectual capacity. And you really see that language in stinging terms here in this famous piece that Gates quotes, even as he recognizes the many virtues of Jefferson as a thinker and a leader. So Gates' discussion of Jefferson is really valuable. Gates is also really helpful in terms of creating or providing really impressive cultural context for Wheatley's poetry. I enjoy this scene where he discusses the curious scenario in which a group of Boston luminaries and dignitaries are gathered to evaluate whether Wheatley could have been responsible for what she was claiming her own writing. As Jefferson notes, as you've already read in your introduction, as others point to, they do validate her writing. And that's an interesting cultural moment that Gates unpacks for us. I also like the passages from Wheatley that Gates brings our attention to. So obviously, you've already read Wheatley. This is the really problematic set of lines from her that seem like an unapologetic endorsement of slavery. And yet Gates does a nice job of crystallizing for us the moments where Wheatley communicates another message, a questioning of slavery, a challenging of slavery, as in this poem and in her later letter to Occam. And the intersection between Wheatley and Occam is, of course, particularly interesting for us. So another aspect of the Gates lecture that's so productive is where he takes us to in terms of Wheatley's own work and the key lines for understanding the tension in her own thinking over race. And finally, Gates concludes this piece with a really nice wrap-up anecdote. He has this anagram that someone has sent him that takes every word and letter from Wheatley's poem, rearranges them into a blistering anti-slavery narrative. And I think that's a fun, imaginative point to wrap up the discussion of Wheatley with. And I encourage you to reflect on it and think about it. And I look forward to seeing what you come up with in your journal posts. Thanks.